person I'm going to talk about today, his name is Genrikh Kasparyan. My conscience doesn't allow me to mispronounce Armenian names, so I'm just going to type his name. So this would be his. And a lot of times it's either Genrikh Kasparyan, so maybe you've seen his name tag like this. And he was not a strong player, he was only an international master, but what he was known for is his composition and his chess game, endgame studies. And he's published several books, and they're really great books. So he was born in Tbilisi in 1910, and just like Tigran Petrosian, who's also of Armenian descent, but he was also born in Tbilisi. And he was a 10-time Armenian champion, but this was back when Armenia wasn't the chess powerhouse than it is now. But he tied for first several times with Tigran Petrosian. So he was a good player, but not one of the strongest players. When we think of those times, think of strong players, we don't really think of him. And I don't know if anyone has ever solved chess studies, but they're very different than regular tactics than we do. And they really require creativity, and not the kind of creativity that if you saw like today's game, like Carlsen versus Caruana, like that kind of creativity. It's the kind of creativity that really you have to think very differently, and a lot of times you have to come up with stalemates, or you have to come up with this really kind of ideas that don't really happen in the game. But I would suggest doing those kind of puzzles because they really make you think, and just really make you think in a way that you usually wouldn't. And I would say in Armenia he's at least among chess players, is just as well known as Tigran Petrosian, because in Armenia we have the chess house or house of chess named after Petrosian, and of course Petrosian is such a big legend in Armenia, and chess in Armenia is what it is today because of him, essentially because of he became a world champion, and chess became so popular in Armenia, but. So we have the chess house in Armenia. All chess players are familiar with it. So it's a 3-story building. It's a very nice building. And actually, Petrosian literally laid the foundation because he laid the first stone of that building when they were building it. And next to it is also the chess school, which is now named after Kasparyan. And that's where all the kids go to learn chess. That's where I first started learning chess. And Varujan Akopian, who also teaches here a lot. That's where he also started learning chess, and Aronia and all these strong players. That's where we started the chess school, and then you move on and you play at the chess. When you're stronger, you play at the chess house. And he has, he's this very well-known composer, and his puzzles. I'm gonna go over his puzzles, and some of them they're very complicated, and they really require you to think in ways you usually wouldn't. But I think just for even just looking at the solution and even thinking about those puzzles, I think is just interesting, and some of them are very fascinating. And another person whose puzzles I like is Votava. He also has very nice compositions. But I mean, even if you can't solve them, even if you just look at them and the ideas that come up, they're really fascinating. So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to leave it up for a little bit. Let's see if anyone can come up with something. And then if not, then I'll just show the solution. So white to move. It's very interesting because the way you approach this kind of position is completely different how you would approach a chess game. First of all, you would not get a position like this in a chess game. So how to even think about this position? So the black king is not in such a great position. What about white's rook? Yeah, white's rook is trapped, essentially. Oh yeah, see, I told you we have to be recording for this to happen. Okay, so first, what's the first move we want to look at in this position? What's it? Really? I think the first move you want to take the rook, right? Okay, so knight d1. So what happens?
Knight d1, rook takes a4, knight c4, king to g4, take the rook.
Wait, king to where?
King to b4,
Mm-hmm.
and then knight takes a4, king takes, and then I put the king on d4.
Can I just run away to b5? Okay, so but we're up to something, right? Okay, so knight d1. So let's make this move. So knight d1. So of course, if the king runs away, I'm just going to take a free knight. But so what happens if I just take? So I think the most natural move is first to take, because you have two pieces under attack, so you want to exchange one and then run away. But here you have to worry about this pawn moving. So let's say if I play something like this. Okay, not there maybe. Let's say I play something like this. And then you protect this pawn. Now I might get a queen. So you have to be careful. And also, if we exchange all the pawns, then I can make a draw. So we found this knight d1 move.
Yeah, you don't have to take on c3. So after they take on a4, knight c3, and then king up, and then I just bring the king up first. I don't see it.
Yeah, king d4.
Yeah, just king d4 right away, and then they have to play some sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then they have to play d6, and I play d3, and they play b5, and then I take it.
But then I'll take with the pawn. Okay, so king d4. So this is the move, right? Okay.
Wait, why don't you go to d3, do the same plan, and then the king can move to c5.
Sorry?
And then no, then he takes that pawn. Never mind. Then you take that.
Okay, so now our goal is not to stalemate this king, but the king is okay. But look, the difference is now he doesn't have the b5 square anymore because there's a pawn here. So now we're trying not to stalemate the king, but the king is completely boxed. So this is what I mean. Like this is kind of thing would never happen in your game, but it's just so interesting to kind of come up with this kind of ideas.
If you're behind rook for a knight, why not stalemate the king?
Well then. I mean, like you can always make a draw. So now we're trying to find a win.
The rook is essentially boxed in. It's almost like he's down a piece. Essentially, the knight can get out. And you just from there play like knight.
I mean, yeah. I mean here.
At this point, you can check the king. You've got a mate. Yeah.
Right. So now we have to somehow do that. I mean, we're not really looking at it from practical game point of view, because in a practical game, first of all, you don't get this position. Second of all, okay, if you need to make a draw, you can just make a draw. And this is actually, even in a practical game, let's say you're attacking your opponent, and you see you have a perpetual. So now you can think there for 30 minutes and try to find something. If you don't find something, you take the perpetual. So here, you don't find something, make a draw. So how can we not stalemate the king? So his next move is going to be d6, and then he has no move. So we have to do it that he can move. So he cannot move any pieces. He cannot move any pieces on like this. Pieces cannot move. So we have to make it so that d pawn can move. Yeah.
I would play d6 to stop.
If you play d6, it's stalemate.
Oh snap!
So how can we do it so after d6 the d pawn can move again?
I'll move the knight. I'll play the knight.
So you have to give up your knight where? King e5, king c5. King, you're letting my king out. The whole point is you box my king in, you have to checkmate it.
Oh, I guess we stack it on c5.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So knight e4. So now he has a move.
There you go.
So here, and checkmate.
Novelty.
Wow.
Okay, so let's go back. And this is the kind of things he did. Like he just sat there and he came up with this puzzles, which I think it's amazing. Okay, so king d4, d6. Okay, so this one is more straightforward. So the same kind of motif, but now you cannot move your knight because my king will run away. In the other position, the king was just blocked in. King king d3 if I go b5? King where? King d3 now? Oh, then my king will run away. Once I go b5, my rook is protected. So the same kind of checkmate we did, but different. So how can we box the king in even more? Take the rook. So king c4. Now the king is blocked.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so who can tell me mate in
yeah, it's not
3?
the B pawn and then
So b5 only move.
king C3, and then
Now we capture. So it's same kind of checkmate. Actually, I like the other. I think the other checkmate is even nicer. After, yeah, I think this one is nicer because there's also a rook on the board.
I got you.
All right, let's do. Okay, this one is one of my favorite puzzles. So again, white to move. Mm-hmm. Again, something that would never happen in your game. You would never have a bishop on 8-7, a pawn on g6.
Surprise.
No.
you've never seen my
Is it white to play?
Yeah.
King G4.
So now you have to ask yourself, are you playing for a win or a draw? Draw, because you have a very useless bishop and I have a pawn that's going to be queen in 5 moves. Okay, so you cannot get the pawn, you cannot get a queen of your own. Your bishop is completely useless. So what's your other hope of drawing?
Well, that's what I was trying to do. Is once you capture on G7, you can gear. Once you be able to gear.
Yeah, but then I'll capture it. Then now you have no bishop. You don't even have a useless bishop. What? And then king takes. King h8.
Well, you only have the resources the king. It'll take 3 moves to get him to e6. That gives me 2 other. I got 5 moves to play with, so that's how I'm thinking about it. Maybe 6.
So what's your other hope of not losing this game? I was talking about this in my first class. Stalemate. So to get a stalemate, to get a stalemate, you have to, first of all, you have to get rid of your bishop. Second of all, you have to do something with this h pawn because it's pawn moves. And then figure out where do you need your king to be. So you have to be very accurate, and you have to put all these ideas together. So we know how we're going to get rid of our bishop. So whenever we play bishop g8, I have to take, otherwise you'll take my c4 pawn, and then I can get a queen. So you know how to get rid of your bishop. Second, you have to figure out how to get rid of that, or what to do with that h pawn.
King needs to go to e2.
Right. Okay. So now we have all this ideas. So now we kind of have a vision of how the stalemate is going to work. So next we want to, next you want to be accurate. So it still involves some kind of calculation, which is the useful thing of doing these puzzles. Your calculation has to be very accurate. So what's going to be our first move? h5. Bishop g8. See, the problem with bishop g8 is I'm going to take, and then when you push h5, h6, I might take that guy too. So put all our ideas together. So h5, h6. Here now I cannot take, because now you're just in time. So I have to ignore. So bishop g8. Now you want to take my pawn and stop me, so I have to take. So I have to go to h8. Now I'm in stalemate. So king g2. King e2. And if you get a queen, it's stalemate. If you get a bishop, actually, you cannot win with this bishop, because your king is in stalemate and you have no way of getting out of this stalemate. So even if I lose this f2 pawn, you still have no way of winning. I don't have to lose my pawn. I can just protect it.
And you choose a knight?
Yeah. That's the next thing. So even if I give up this pawn, you have no way of winning, because you cannot promote to a queen, you cannot get out of stalemate. You can promote to a pawn, but the problem is, and now again you don't have a move. If you take, it's stalemate. If you don't take, you play knight b3. Then I'm going to take, and then play here. Again, you're playing without a king, so eventually you'll run out of moves. And again, you run out of moves. But your first few moves, they have to be very accurate. Because if your first moves are not accurate, then this is not going to happen. If you start with bishop g8, let's say, then I'm going to take. Now I'm going to take this guy too. And now I have a lot of moves to waste. And now I don't have to get a queen on stalemate here. I can just push my pawn, and now I'm going to get a queen with a check. I can capture this pawn, so I have a lot of moves to waste. But in the original position, the original move order, I did not have all these options. So very nice. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, this is another one I really like. So white to move. And then when you start doing a lot of these puzzles, you kind of start noticing the patterns. So your opponent is trying to get a queen. But what's the problem for black? His king. Right, so bishop h2, kind of a natural move to look. Because bishop h2, when you play, what happens if I go king f2? Yeah, it's pinned, so I'm not, if I play, if I play king f2, I'm no longer threatening to get a queen, so you can just take my pawn. And then you can give up this rook for a pawn because you get to keep extra bishop. So I have to go king h4. Okay. Wait, what do you want to do?
Oh, never mind. It's not going to work. At first I thought maybe you could stack the rook, but you can't.
So if you were to, now you have to kind of visualize this checkmate in your head. If you were to checkmate this king, where do you need your pieces to be?
Okay. You need to push the pawn and shoot.
Right, so you need to push the pawn on g3, which means you have to protect the h3 square, right?
Right.
So how are you going to do that? But, so first of all, I'm trying to get a queen with a check. But even forget that for a second. So where do you need which piece? So you need to gain the on h2, which means you have to move the bishop out of the way. Okay, so that we know. Well, another thing you have to look out for. So I want to get a queen with a check. So we're not sure if it's relevant or not. And another thing I want to do is I want to take this g2 pawn, which means you're not going to be able to play g3. So how do we stop that? So how do we stop the f takes g2 move? No, but then you're not going to have your checkmate. Right, so you have to give up your rook. Okay, so now we have to be very accurate. So now we have to be very accurate where we put our bishop. So you have a lot of squares, but not all of them work. So think about what your opponent's, what is your opponent's going to do after he gets a queen. After I get a queen and you go king h2, so you're trying to checkmate me. So how can I have to make an escape path for my king, right? So what's going to be my next move?
King h2.
No, for black.
Oh, for black.
Yeah, so I move my bishop, you get a queen, I play king h2. Now you're threatening g3 mate. So I have to...
C7. Bishop C7.
Why?
Because then you can access the gate square.
Right, because your opponent wants to play g4, so the king can run away. So bishop c7. So if you go g4, because if you play it all the way to b8, so it's relevant. So these positions are very tricky. So if you play it here, now g4 and you don't have a mate. I'm just going to run away. Now you lost all your pieces.
And d6 doesn't work because then e7 is going to go.
Right. So bishop c7, only move. Exclamation point. So now what is black's only move? g4 gets mated. What's the only way to stop the checkmate?
On a good note.
So,
And you, pinning the pawn.
right, so we have to pin the pawn. So, okay, so what to do now? Look, if you move the bishop from this diagonal, I mean, you just lose, and then I'm going to check you, and then now you're not even threatening mate. You know, I'm going to play here, my king's going to run away. So bishop d6, very accurate move. Again, if now your opponent has two options. You either play g6 and get mated, move the queen. He's in Zugzwang, so he doesn't have a move. Either keep the queen on the second rank, so he's gonna get mated from here, or play here.
G3.
Right. So we don't want to get greedy. So g3 and another checkmate.
Yeah, that was big names.
All right. So white to move, yeah. What? You have to calculate. You can't just tell me a move. So that's a good idea. So now we have to find, So he's trying to stalemate himself. He wants to put his king. He wants to put his king on a5, push b5, b6, b5, b4, a4, and then he's in stalemate.
That's why I don't understand see you.
Okay. So now.
King d7, pawn to h5, king to c7, pawn to h4, a4, h3, a5, h2.
No, when I get a queen, I protect. See, I told you you're not gonna win.
And then I can't get past what black plays like B6 on.
Well, you can stop black from playing b6.
Yeah.
So that's easy to take care of. There you go.
Yeah. See, this is why I know.
No, but that's a good way of thinking, right? If you're trying to come up, like you have this idea and you're trying to create this position, and then you want to make sure you're starting it accurately. And so if you don't want your opponent to be able to play b6, then you can start b6.
No, you can't let black play B6.
Okay, so b6. Okay, so we don't.
But you can't play b6 here, can you? Because then I catch his h pawn if I.
He does like this. Okay, so b6. Actually, no, b6 you're behind. You're right.
King d7, then he plays b6, I'm in the square. So that's
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Oh yeah, you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so hold on. Let me see the now, I thought.
You can white can catch
can I catch the h pawn?
Okay. So yeah, so your idea is right. So here,
for black.
and it's actually funny because you're not in stalemate yet. You need 2 moves to stalemate yourself. But then if your opponent comes and tries to take your pawns, then if you take this pawn, it's already stalemate. No, I mean I think this is just like a really funny position because he has a queen, and you need 2 moves to stalemate yourself. But there's nothing like it's 2 moves. There's nothing productive he can do to stop the stalemate. Okay, so let me see. So king d7, you think b6? Okay, so let me count.
No,
h5.
Oh yeah, now I'm in the
Yeah,
square.
you're in the square.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can't.
Oh, you were saying that black or, okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
I had stuck in my head I
Yeah.
had to prevent black from playing b6, and I missed.
Yeah, and if you play b6 here now, again you're gonna lose.
But yeah, then I promote calls check.
Yeah, because I get a check. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, b6. Yeah, but why did I think? Yeah, if I start with b6, I'm a move behind. So you're right.
Isn't that though?
Okay. Okay. This is another one of my favorites. So it helps to do a summary of the position. I think that always helps in an end position, because when first you look at the position, you have no idea what's going on. But once you break it down, maybe it's still complicated. It's still not easy, but at least you get some kind of a grasp. So it's always nice to summarize a position. And it's actually a very good thing to do during your games, especially when a lot of things happen. When the nature of the position changes, let's say you're attacking and then a lot of exchanges happen, you really want to stop and like reevaluate and do a summary and see what changed. Because if you're still in the attacking mode and then you don't have an attack, you're still pushing, and then all of a sudden you see, now I have weaknesses, my position's bad. So, it's always good to see what's going on. So you're down a rook. So it's an important thing to keep in mind, because you have to understand, if you're down a rook, then your opponent maybe doesn't mind giving the rook back. So if your whole purpose to get the rook back, then you might not miss your win. But you have this d7 pawn. So you also have a knight on h8 that's trapped, and this f7 knight is stopping your pawn from queening. So and the king is in a little bit of a not comfortable position. Yeah, because the problem is when I play rook c8 and you go king h7 and I take on f7 and you take on d7, what's going to happen? Again, I told you, right? I'm up a rook, I'm going to give my rook back. So you're so fast in giving your answer. Take a pause and think. Knight g5, knight g5. Now we're... wait, e6, I'll move my rook. Okay, so rook c8. So just take a pause in that position. There's mating one there. Rook c8, king h7, knight f7. So where's the mate? Does anyone see the mate?
What do you mean, h8?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rook c8. So then rook c8, what's going to be your opponent's move? So we said king h7 loses. So what's your other move? So you have to go move by move. See, like you want to calculate very fast, but it's better to calculate accurately than inaccurately and quickly. So knight d8, next move. So knight d8 gives your opponent some. So first of all, so when I play rook c8, and then you play king h7. So the problem is there's one move threat and the rook h8 threat. So if you take, there's the mate, and I want a queen. So what knight d8 does is now you have a rook in front of your pawn, and so of course you have to take. So now what if it was black's move? What would black do? Just to make it a draw and not even think about it. Right, I'll take your pawn, I'll take your knight. So this is why it's important to keep count of the material, because if your opponent is up a lot of material, your opponent can give away a lot of material. So I'll give away my rook, I'll take your knight, and I'm up a pawn in an endgame. So now you have to make a draw. Okay, so how to continue from here? It's white to move.
Then they can go to rook to a1.
Yeah.
oh, knight g6.
What?
Knight g6. So if it takes your pawn, then you have a fork. And if I'm looking next move like rook h8 to check.
Hold on, knight g6, what happens if I take the knight?
Then you can move rook to h8 and then queen.
But then I have two rooks for a queen. I'm happy with my two rooks. So okay, so we have to move the knight out of the way. Because if we simply move the rook, so yeah, because our opponent has a threat, so we have to move that guy. So knight g6, so what's the other move?
Knight f7.
Knight f7.
Push the pawn with tempo. Is that the point? As opposed to knight g6. Then we could remove the rook. Right?
I mean, you just take them.
Take what?
You're saying
Then e6. And I want to swing the rook over.
Okay, so you want to play knight f7? Okay, so rook takes. So e6.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go rook g7. Yeah, but the problem now, your king is a problem, so I'm going to play rook a1. No, I'm going to checkmate you. Yeah, and then I'll get two queens for... huh? Because I want to take on d7 and take your knight.
So why can't we play e6?
So I can play rook a1.
I was thinking rook a3.
Knight g6.
Yeah, but then I can... I mean, we're going to get the queen versus two rooks position. I mean, knight f7 has a very subtle idea. So knight f7, so rook takes. So the rook on f7 is worse, because when I move rook somewhere and you take on d7, what can I do? When you have rooks on d7 and f7, what can I do? e6 and fork your rooks. But the question is where you're going to put your rook. Because, okay, so let me show you. So knight f7. So I take. So if you move, let's say, your rook on c8, so I have to take your pawn, and then you go e6. And the problem is, if you take one of my rooks, I don't have a way of stopping your pawn from queening. But what defensive resource does your opponent have? And this is the sneaky part. So where can I move my rooks? So let's say I want to play rook c8. Oh, there's a question mark. So rook d7, e6. So let's save this position.
I guess we play rook d5 and sorry.
Oh,
Rook d8.
rook d8.
F6.
Rook d8, very nice resource. And it's funny because you cannot play rook f8, because when I take, I protected my rook. But rook d8, attacking my rook. So when you have several pieces, even in a game, when you have two pieces under attack, if you can move one of them and attack your opponent's piece, then you're going to save it. So if you take, and again, now black is the one playing for a win. So where should we move our rook in this position? Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, rook e8, exactly. So it cannot be attacked. So when you take, now I'm going to play e6. And if you play rook d8, again, I protected my rook. If you play rook f8, this is what I mean. This rook e8 idea is so, it's very sneaky. Yeah, so rook d8 is the line, and he takes f7. It's the win. Okay, let me see which one is the next one. What? Oh. Oh, yeah, this is another good one. White to move. Yeah, again, it's a crazy position, and okay, c7.
After queen h8, rook h1.
And then?
After queen somewhere random.
I'm not going to move somewhere random. First of all, I'm not going to move somewhere random. Your opponent also has saving resources. What if I play queen g8? Okay, then queen d5 perpetual. So you're making moves, like come up with an idea. Think of your opponent's resources. Think about what you're going to do. Like how are you going to win this position? Okay, first move, I think first move is obvious, but
C7.
so c7 is going to happen.
Rook C1, Queen C8, King takes B5, and I threaten checkmate on H.
When you play, so why did I put my queen on H8? If it was blocked move, what would black do here?
Queen to A1.
Yeah.
No.
And especially you play, and the problem is with Rook C1 when I play, that showed the move. If I play Queen A1, you take now, I'm going to take your rook and I stop the queen. So now I have this Queen A1 threat. I'm going to start checking you. So here I want to get rid of my queen. So if I don't have a queen, it's a stalemate for black. So how do we stop Queen A1?
Oh, Rook D4.
Rook D4. So now Queen G8. Remember, if I get rid of my queen, it's a draw. So if you play King B5, I'll happily play Queen C4. Same thing. I'm going to get Rook D5. Look, I really, okay, so again, to show this, I'm going to check you. You play here. I'm going to check you. If you take this queen, it's a draw. So I'm very happy to get rid of it. So you have to basically block my queen. So my queen cannot move off the back rank without a check. So if you play here, I cannot take because I get mated. So you constantly have to block my queen. So if Queen H8, then Rook E5, queen here, Rook E6. Because if I take with the pawn, D7, and then you get a queen and checkmate. So now I don't have Queen G8 anymore. So now how are you going to win this position? That's the question, because we can go back and forth forever. So how can you possibly checkmate my king? Where do you need your rook? Okay, so you need it on the A file. So Rook G2. So let's say I play here. Rook A2. So let me see. Rook A2.
Queen would go to E5 and make your king taking.
Oh, but then you get a queen. So let me see what's the matter. What's the problem with Queen A2? I mean, so wait, what did you want to do? Yeah. So here, mate into.
You can make.
So takes, and now checkmate. All right, so let's do last one. Let me see which one I want to do, because I have several. Wait, this one.
Oh, I know this one.
No, I'm looking through them. Oh, I think I actually have only one more left. This one is a little complicated, but this is another one I really like, because it ends up in a rook endgame that's like a well-known position. So again, white to move. So again, it's a good idea to kind of, go over what's going on in the position. Right, so both sides have a passed pawn. So why can't you push your pawn right now? You're pinned. So you need to move your rook. So rook a7, tempo move, you're moving. And the problem is you cannot go just anywhere because I'll take your pawn. So rook a7, you're threatening mate. So f3 and rook g6. So now we want to push our pawn, right? b7. So what happens if, let's say, he plays rook b8? How do we win this?
Rook g7.
King h8. B8. I'll take with this rook. Don't. This is not a fancy thing. It's just rook ending to win. So just rook a8, right? Yeah. And then you check, and then here. So unfortunately, he's a move behind. So now he has to come up with an idea of his own. So let's see if he can come up with an idea for black. The black wants. How can black promote his own pawn? Okay, so rook g2 and f2. Now I want to promote with a check. Rook where? Rook f7. It's a beautiful move. Can I take with the rook? I queen with a check. Can I take with the king because it's discovery check? So what to do? Sorry?
I guess you have to play rook g1, king takes f2, rook takes f7 check.
And then if I take your rook?
King takes the rook and then king to g7.
No, then I get a queen. So stop my pawn from. So I have a threat. I want to take your rook and get a queen. So how do you stop my pawn from queening? Rook b8. So the thing is, my king is very close, so I can very easily. So for example, if you take my rook, I'll take yours. You take my pawn, then I'm going to run and take your pawn. And the reason that's a draw is because my a7 rook is in a horrible position. It's a very bad place for a rook to be because it's very inactive. So when you put your rook behind it, even in front of it, then I can't do anything. So rook a8. So what is black going to do? Right. Otherwise, I'm going to so king f7. Take here. You don't get to make two moves. It's black to move. Of course, if it was white to move, you take my rook. So how does black defend? Okay, who can see until the end, actually? From here, we can do that. So black has one defensive resource. King f2. And then rook h8. Yeah. And the reason I love this study so much is because you end up in a well-known theoretical position. So rook g1, rook b1, and now skewer. And you take on b7. And the funny thing is, if white does anything else, then it's a dead draw because I'm going to play king g7 and another very well-known theoretical position. So after all this craziness, we just end up in this well-known endgame that just wins for white. Okay, so this is all I have. So I would suggest, he has several books, so if you like the studies, and I think they're really fascinating and they really get your creativity going. So you can check out his puzzles.